Welcome everyone to Mom Street USA. We are so happy you're here with us. My name is Jackie, aka Wishes Mama, and my lovely co-host on this side is Kate, aka the Disney Cicerone. This is episode 6, I believe, of Mom Street USA. And tonight we are going to be discussing all things value resorts. So we've got a lot of really good info to give you guys tonight on kind of the quote-unquote cheapest level of the resorts kind of that are available for Disney World and Disneyland to help you guys kind of start that planning process.
Yeah, and I think this is such a great one for families because I feel like there's a lot of families are on a budget. I mean, especially with costs going up with groceries and gas and everything. Yeah. Like, let's really dig into what you can do to save some money. And I'm sure that we'll do more episodes on how to save money as you travel, but this is specifically how to get the most bang for your buck for where you stay. That's what we're doing today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I pretty much always stay at value resorts when I go because I spend so much time in the parks and very rarely in my room. We do typically do like one resort day or an afternoon or whatever it may be. But the majority of the times we're off doing other things. So we personally typically just go as cost efficient as possible. So that way we can spend our money elsewhere while we're down at the parks.
Yeah, and I do the same when I just go on my solo trips as a creator. I just don't even bother with somewhere that's fancy because I won't spend any time there. I spend every single second in the parks that I can. And so I need usually it's like clean and safe. Those are like my main parameters. If it's clean and safe, I'm good.
Right, absolutely. And I think we'll find out tonight that it's a little easier to do that maybe in Orlando than Anaheim from what I've heard from you. And so we'll get some information about kind of some different options on both coasts.
Katie says value resorts are still out of my budget, you rich Disney people.
Hey, we've got some info for you tonight, Katie. So stick around because I have 2 pages full of prices and lists for you guys of different resorts to be able to add to your list to look at before you go. So we've got info for you too, Katie.
And I have recently been put in a situation where I have to save as much money as possible. So I'm trying to figure out how to go to Disney on like a super budget. So I've been doing a ton of research for Disneyland for my November trip to figure out where to stay that's really cheap. So this is actually like great for this show. Perfect timing in that way.
Perfect timing. Perfect. All right. Which coast would you like to start on?
Oh, let's start with Disney World, especially because you're headed there soon.
I know. We leave in 2 days. I'm so excited. All right. So Disney World has technically 5 different resorts in its value category. So Disney really very straightforward breaks down all of their resorts and all of the categories on their website. So if you're looking for prices, it's all very straightforward on the Disney page. Literally go to the Walt Disney World homepage. It's right at the top. You plug in your dates and how many people, and then they give you a drop-down option where it will show you, if I can pull it up here, it will give you the option. See, now I'm going to have to try to mess with this mirror again on here. Okay. So that way you guys can see it. I know. Well, it's always helpful, I feel like, to be able to see what in the world we're talking about. So
absolutely.
If you're looking...
Allie, me too. Allie has FOMO for everybody going to Disney World. I do too.
So if you're looking... Okay, mirror, here we go. So if you're looking along the top here, you can see that I have plugged in some information. This is just generic information that I was looking at as I was looking. But if you look... Let me see if I can do this. In this little drop down here, it will give you the ability to pick what resorts you're looking for. So if you're looking value, the nice thing is they give you the ability to just search by category. So if you, hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. If you just click that value resort option and then you click view, hopefully view, there it goes. It will give you all 5 of your options for those value resorts. So again, super, super easy to be able to find on the website.
Yeah, and it's I get a lot of people that ask me, like, how do you find those resorts cheaper? And The answer is you can either find one of if they're running a deal, like they have like a Disney Plus subscriber deal that's going on. Sometimes they'll just do discounts. If you're an annual pass holder, there's often a discount for that. But as far as just like Disney hotels, there's really like not a lot of deals out there.
Yeah. Unless it's straight through Disney, they don't really have a ton of outside deals.
Yeah.
They do also sometimes run Disney Visa card holder deals as well.
Yeah.
So if you've got that, keep an eye out for that. But really, it's just finding the right time and the right deal to make it worth it. But yeah, deals are hard to find, and you can on occasion find stuff on like Priceline and those types of things, but it's always kind of a shot in the dark as to whether or not it's truly a Disney resort when you're on there, because some of those websites don't give you the specific resort. They just say Disney area or something generic like that. Occasionally you can kind of process of elimination figure out which one is which, but it's not always a guarantee that way.
Yeah, you have to look at like certain things, like what amenities do they have? What do they have parking that costs a certain amount? Is it in like Bonnet Creek or Disney Springs area? There's like a whole list, which I'm sure we can post somewhere to help people if they want to go that route. But and it's still not guaranteed that you'll end up in a Disney resort. So it's kind of rolling the dice. If you feel like I'm feeling lucky and you want to try it, you can sometimes get a really good deal on a Disney hotel, but it's not guaranteed. So
yeah, and having a travel agent that can track some of those deals is always helpful, in my opinion. I come from the side of like I mean, you guys know, those of you who know me from Pocket Fam, I know what I'm doing when it comes to Disney, but I still book through a travel agent because I don't then have to spend the time checking the website constantly, because my travel agent can do that for me. Even though I know what I'm doing when it comes to booking, it's still helpful to have someone kind of helping you out with those. So I know, my travel agent will occasionally message me like, hey, I found this deal. Do you want to, like when we stayed back in April, we stayed at a moderate resort, and she was able to add a day for us and upgrade our room because of a deal that was happening, and we paid less at the end. So it was, things like that you can look at and that a travel agent can be really helpful for too.
yeah, absolutely. Danny said, I feel the hotels near Disneyland don't do AP discounts unless they're super expensive ones. And that's true. Disneyland is a whole nother ballpark from Disney World in terms of they give a lot more perks for locals that are Magic Key holders that are not necessarily stays, because most of the people that are Magic Key holders already have a place to stay, but because Disney World's a destination, a lot of annual pass holders are out of state or at least farther away from the park, so they give a little bit more discounts at the actual resorts for Disney World.
Right. Yeah, that totally makes sense. So let's talk value resorts at Disney World.
I have a question from Katie
yes.
real quick. If you use an agent and you book and they find it cheaper, will they give money back? Probably.
Well, and typically at that point, you probably haven't paid your trip in full yet. So your end cost will be adjusted. Very rarely, because if you book a package through a travel agent, through Disney's website, straight, whatever it may be, 30 days before, you have to pay off that full amount. So typically 30 days before your trip, I don't know that you would ever find a deal that close to your trip. You may, depending on what your dates are and when Disney typically rolls out their deals and things like that. But typically by then, you're not going to find a better deal than what you've already got. So chances are good you haven't paid off your trip. If you have paid off your trip, you would get a refund back. I always suggest to people, especially if you're paying your trip with a gift card or something that's not a standard credit card, hold on to it until you go, because whatever payment method you use to pay for the trip, if you end up needing to get any sort of a refund, they're going to put it right back on that method of payment. So don't throw that gift card away. Make sure you have that credit card still handy. That way they can get that return payment back to you. I hope that answered your question, Katie.
Yeah, and Tran says she's always looking at hotels, even if she's not going anytime soon. And I think that a lot of us are in that category.
Well,
I relate to that
because I feel like different times of year the prices will vary and things like that. So it's always helpful, especially if you're looking a year or so in advance. You can kind of track those trends to plan accordingly, especially if you've got flexibility in your vacation schedule.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. All right. Any other questions, or are we ready to push ahead?
I think
We love
we're good.
questions, so
We're
if
getting
you've got
lots
them,
of great
please
comments.
ask
So
them. I love it.
I think
I
that's
love
all
it.
we got for now.
Okay, well, keep them coming. If you guys have questions and comments as we're going through, or opinions to chime in on, please stick them in our chats. Remember that Kate and I's comment sections are separate on TikTok, so we'll relay them back and forth, but feel free to comment as needed. So, as I was saying before, Disney World has 5 different value resorts at that lowest level. So 3 of those resorts are under the All-Star category. So you've got All-Star Movies, All-Star Music, and All-Star Sports. So those 3 resorts are in that same kind of category. Along with those, you've also got Pop Century and Art of Animation. So Disney's value resorts are kind of tiered, with the All-Stars being the cheapest level. Pop Century is just a tiny step above that, and Artimation another tiny step above that. So they're all in the value category, but some are less expensive than others in that category. So for your All-Star Musics, movies, and sports, the majority of those rooms are going to be just your standard 4-person room. You're going to be able to have 2 beds in there typically. Now with the renovated rooms that they've recently done, the beds, at least one of the beds typically folds up and turns into like a little table with some chairs, things like that. So they've got a really nice,
actually.
Yeah, really nice setup. They've got new hardwood in them. They've kind of renovated the entire insides of these rooms to update them. So they're very nice resorts. Especially, like I said, if you're not spending a ton of time in your room, they're perfect for basically what you would need. So those standard rooms, I was looking kind of in like the March, April timeframe. So out a little bit, but not too far. And all of these numbers that I'm going to give you tonight are kind of a direct comparison because I searched the same dates for every single one, just to kind of keep it even playing field so you guys can get an idea for where the prices are. So those all-star resorts are typically going to run around $227 a night, kind of in that range. They can be cheaper in more off-season. I didn't look those numbers up just because I wanted to give you more accurate information because most of the time they're going to be in that range.
So I looked in October and mine were like 160 to 190. So that would be an example of the off-season prices, just a little lower.
Yeah. So in April, March and April is like spring break season. So you're going to see a little spike in the prices, which is kind of why I went with that range when I was looking, because it is kind of middle of the road. It's not as expensive as the summer months can sometimes be when it's super peak season, but it's not as cheap as kind of those off-season times, like Kate was mentioning. So somewhere in that range, can be as low as 160, 170, can be higher than kind of that 225, 227 that I saw on those. Now, All-Star Music does offer a family suite. So this would be the cheapest suite option that you would find on property. It will sleep up to 6 people, and it runs around $450 to $480 a night.
It's so expensive.
Yeah. So the nice thing about the suites is, you've got a separate bedroom to your like main area. So the one part of the room is fairly standard. You're going to have the 2 beds that look almost identical to what a standard room would look like with the bathroom and everything. With the suites, then it's just got the conjoining room that you would treat like the master bedroom and an additional bathroom in there. So it sleeps up to 6 people. You've got a separate kind of master space, and you've got the 2 full bathrooms, which is really nice to have, especially if you're traveling with 5 or 6 people. So those are kind of your low
Katie
end.
Says that would be the room she would have with a big stupid big family. Like, I have a family of 5, and it's like, you've got to go with what. Luckily, Disney has some of suites that have at least like Sleep 5 in some of their DVC properties. But I would say I'm not knowing that those resorts, I think you mentioned that they're being renovated like this. They're almost all renovated except for sports is currently being renovated. So you kind of roll in the dice right now if you may get one that's renovated or you might not. And I think it started in May that they started renovating all those rooms, but they really look like they're from the 90s, the ones that aren't renovated. They've got like wallpaper all along the borders at the top.
The borders and the old thin gross carpet and all that. So they desperately needed it. And they're so nice once they get them done. So the the suite at All Star Music is where we're staying when we go. So I'm really excited to see what it's like. And they are newly renovated as well. So I'll be excited to kind of scope it out and see what those suites are like.
Yeah, and I will say, just from my experience, especially traveling with my bigger family, I would personally probably not get a value for my size family at that suite. I think it's a great option, but I probably would prefer to rent points for DVC for a suite, because it's almost the same price to stay at Animal Kingdom Lodge for that price, if you feel comfortable renting, which we can talk about on a whole other episode.
Yes,
but I'll just throw that out there. Yeah, I'll just throw that out there, that you can, there's other options that for almost that same price, that will still give you the room you need for your family. So that's not the only option, but the family suites can be really great if you have a big family and you need a place for 6 people to stay.
Yeah, so we're traveling this trip with my in-laws, so there are 4 adults and 2 kids. So that was part of the reason why. And I just wanted to, honestly, I wanted to check out what the suite was like over there. Yeah. For the longest time, I didn't even realize that they had suites over there. So it was something that once I saw it, I was like, let's try that out and let's see.
Right, because Art of Animation is the other one that really, in the value, that has the family suites, which is funny because Lev mentioned that's pretty much a moderate in price. Can be.
Yes. Yeah. So let's talk about the other 2 that are kind of in that value category, how Disney puts them. So Pop Century, which is another value resort. In my opinion, it's very, very similar to the All-Stars. The biggest perk, in my opinion, for Pop Century is that you've got Skyliner access. So you don't have to wait for the buses. You've got that Skyliner access.
For 2 of the resorts, for 2 of the parks.
For Pop Century and for Art of Animation, both, which we'll get to that in just a second.
Well, I meant, you don't have to wait for the buses for getting to Hollywood Studios and Epcot, but you will still have to wait for the buses for Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom, just to be clear.
Yeah, absolutely. So
that's still buses involved.
Still buses, but not as many buses. So that's definitely a perk of Pop Century. So Pop Century prices, you're looking around, in this price range in April, about $283 a night. So a little bit more, about $50 more than what you're going to typically spend at the All-Stars. So if that's within your budget, that's something to look at as well. I will say all of the value resorts have very immersive Disney theming, which is super fun, especially when you're traveling with kids. They've got big statues and larger than life theming and characters from movies. Yep,
so that's movies.
All-Star Movies in the Toy Story area.
And then I have, let's see, what else
there's all sorts of themes all across that you can check out.
This is another movies one with the Dalmatians.
Yep. So obviously super fun themes for the kids. There's a Jungle Book theme. I think that's Art of Animation.
This is Pop Century. Mm-hmm. And then, it looks like sports.
It does. I know. I second guessed it for a second. I was like, wait a minute.
This one's sports. Mm-hmm. So you can see this is gigantic things. And now I will say that it's really fun, I think, for kids. I really think that the kids really love that. And I know I don't know if I have a picture of it, but when I was staying at Pop Century, I was looking at the pool, which I didn't go in, but I was looking at it, and they have one that's, what is it called? It's a computer pool. So they're like a giant old school computer that's above the pool, which is really interesting. And it's just like a giant, I think where I was staying, and they had a giant Rubik's Cube.
Yep. And it's very... Pop Century will give you kind of through the decades. So they'll give you all sorts of different kind of themes for the different decades. I was trying to see if I had a picture of the pool area.
I don't think I have the pool.
Searching around and see if I can find it. But that is definitely perfect. Yep. So you can see in the picture that Kate is showing, the one bed is pulled down, but the other bed is actually where that table is. So those handles that are up on the top there will just pull down, and it's very easy to pull down. It's not super heavy. Doesn't take a lot of effort to be able to pull it down. So you just slide the chairs out of the way and pull that down, and there's a whole other bed back behind there that you then have access to. So that was something that was really nice, especially because we eat our breakfast in our room. It's great. Really nice to have that additional space with that fold up. And it was something that we just decided okay, whoever's sleeping on that bed, just throw all your stuff in the middle and we'll just shove it up into the wall and make space and it'll work out nicely.
I love that.
Yeah. So
Lem pointed out something that I 100% agree on. He said just avoid All-Star during cheer season, and
yes.
I agree. Anytime that especially All-Star sports tends to get more of them than any of the others. But it is nothing against cheer parents or cheer families or cheer groups or
Yep.
anything. And it's not just cheers, there's also soccer and a whole bunch of other teams too.
Yeah.
But the thing is that they can be very loud.
Yeah.
Very loud. And
Yeah.
yeah, that we'll just leave that there. So yes, I agree.
Yes. So check accordingly, or have your travel agent double check any big events that may be happening at like Wild World of Sports, if I can talk, is something always to make sure that you're double checking. And that can be at literally any of the All Stars. But like Kate said, typically sports is the big one for those groups that stay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that kind of gives you an idea of Pop Century. Again, like I said, very, very similar to the All Stars. You do have that Skyliner access, but very, very similar as far as rooms and sizes and things like that go. So Art of Animation is the last one that Disney puts in their value category. Now, some people consider this more of a moderate because the price point does jump again a little bit more.
It was really expensive.
Yeah. So
Crazy.
The thing about Art of Animation is you've really only got two different types of rooms. You've got basically their standard room, which they call their preferred room, which is the Little Mermaid room. So that room is going to be a standard size, but they do kind of up the prices. And the thing about the Little Mermaid rooms is they are very rarely included in the discounts. So they will almost always be an exclusion to the deals and the discounts that Disney runs for whatever reason. They typically are not included. So again, in that range that I was looking at, about $315 a night for those Little Mermaid rooms. So you can see the difference between an All-Star, which is about $225 to $315. So almost $100 difference between the All-Star price and that Art of Animation price. Now, are the rooms adorable? Absolutely. Is the theming fantastic? Absolutely. But you are paying a little bit more for those rooms. The second type of room that you'll see at Art of Animation are the family suites. So they've got 3 different themes of family suites at Art of Animation as well. They've got a Lion King suite, a Cars suite, and a Finding Nemo suite. So all 3 of those will sleep. They claim to sleep 6. I would sleep 5 personally. The pull down table bed in those is not as wide as some of the others. So it would be tight. You could put 2 littles possibly on that bed, but I would not put 2 adults on that bed, in my opinion. But you
and I would say
can sleep 6.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine.
I would say also, I think we forgot to mention that the standard rooms in all of these value resorts, you can have the max capacity of the room plus an infant in a crib, technically.
Yes.
Whether or not there's like space for that is a whole nother thing. But so you can have, if the max is 4, you can have 4 plus a baby in a crib, and or if it's 6 plus a baby in a crib. So if that's helpful for anybody who's traveling with an infant.
Yes, and Disney does provide pack and plays for the value resorts. I don't believe any of the value resorts offer actual cribs. I think those are all kind of at the deluxe resorts, from my knowledge. But they will offer pack and plays for you. Now, because we drive, we brought our pack and play whenever we had my son when he was little. And I'm trying to see if I can find, I looked around and I didn't have a photo of exactly where we had put the pack and play. So let me see if I can find that while I'm chatting here.
We are, I am getting a couple comments here. So like we are, yes, there's some great off-property resorts. We'll get to that in just a minute. Absolutely. And we also got to talk about Disneyland because we're talking Disney World right now. Let's see, the family suite at Music would say 6 adults can fit in there. Yeah, they would. Agreed. That's like the max capacity for the room. And then Katie says, my kid's gonna get sleeping bags. And I'm like, yep, sleeping bags are a great option. I've also done inflatable, like you can get really small inflatable mattresses because sometimes like if you have maybe, you know, a boy and a girl that are older and they don't want to share a bed or something, you know, you can put a kid on the floor, you know, that I have done that before with my kids when we travel. So sometimes Go ahead.
Yeah, so when my son went his first trip, he was still a couple months under 2, so he was in a pack and play. So we stayed at Pop, and we were in a refurbed room, and between the dresser and the kitchenette on the wall where the TV is and everything, there is just enough space for a pack and play. So we scooted the table over and, kind of made it, but
rearranging.
A little bit. I mean, you have to.
You got to do what you got to do.
You have to. So there was just enough space between there. So that was helpful that we could kind of push it up against the wall. There was still a walkway that you could walk between when the bed was folded down, because that's where the Murphy bed is on that side. So there was still enough room even when the bed was down that you could walk at the foot of the bed and not run into the pack and play. So there definitely is enough room. You would also be able to fit a pack and play between like the door and the first bed if you chose to. We chose to push it a little further away from the door just in case, try not to be paranoid, but just in case something were to happen and someone were to try to come
my
in.
Kids sleeping by the door. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, even still, my kids are older and we still put them as far away from the door as we can. So there would be room there as well. We also did test to see there is room in the bathroom area, which sounds crazy, but like if you're not going to need the bathroom, or if you're in like a suite that has kind of that space and you can go into another bathroom or whatever it may be, there is room just barely between like where the toilet and the shower are, to put that in, to put the pack and play in there as well.
Well, and I know at like Pop Century, there is the area that is the bathroom like sink area that you can close off with a door. Oh, thanks, Rhonda, for the tiny. And then there's an actual door. Yeah, and there's a door then that closes off like the toilet and the shower. So you can like put somebody, especially if you have kids that like maybe you're going to bed earlier than they are, like a small child, and you just need, like, everybody else is still up but they need to go to bed. That's a great option for sticking them in there. I mean, it sounds weird, but you got to do what you got to do as a parent, right? Like,
and there's probably just enough room to maneuver around if you push them to one side that you can still get into the bathroom and shower. I will forewarn you that if you have not stayed on Disney property and don't know, Disney toilets are very loud. So keep that in mind.
For sure.
If you're
some white noise.
if you're using that process, just keep that in mind. And the other thing is, like Kate was saying, you do have the ability to have that extra person in there depending on what the capacity of the rooms are. So in like the suites, you're going to have a lot more room to be able to put a pack and play or a crib or something like that in those rooms as well.
But in those value rooms, when you're trying to save money, you do what you got to do. And I love that it says, Gina says you have to be creative in the value resorts. You absolutely do. She says she's used the bathroom area for her pack and play. And then Katie Moon says if there's 2 bathtubs, a kid can sleep in one and shower in the other, which the value doesn't really have 2.
Right,
usually.
unless you're in those suites.
Got one, but in the suites,
yeah, exactly. Yep, and you do have to get creative. And the nice thing is about the value resorts, and this is true for all of the value resorts that have been refurbed, now, good and bad, they hiked the beds up a little bit, but that leaves a ton of space underneath for suitcases and extra luggage and those types of things. Not so great if you've got kids that flip and flop around that you're worried about falling out of bed, but it is a nice perk to have if you are not worried about that and you just want a place to shove your suitcase. So that is a perk of kind of the newly renovated. They do have a lot of space for that underneath the beds.
Right. Absolutely. I think that's a great feature for suitcases, tucking them underneath there.
Absolutely. So for those suites at Art of Animation, for the Lion King suite and the Cars suite, you're going to be looking about $680 a night. So not cheap by any means. Typically, we have stayed in those suites when we've been splitting costs with people. So, for example, we're splitting the cost of our suite that we're staying in 2 days with my in-laws. So it made it more cost effective for us and for them because we're overall spending less on a room than we would if we had booked 2 separate rooms.
Right.
So that's kind of the reason why we typically have done the suites. The Finding Nemo suite, for whatever reason, tends to run a little bit more, and you're looking at about $700 a night for the Finding Nemo suite. And I don't know why that is. I really have no idea because they're all set up the same, all 3 styles of the suites. I've stayed in Lion King and I've stayed in Finding Nemo. But when we stayed in Finding Nemo, my travel agent booked it under, and I don't know if this is just a travel agent thing, but she booked it under like a random like suite booking, so it could have been, we didn't know which theme we were going to get, so it wasn't the higher price because we didn't request a Nemo suite.
Gotcha.
So look into that if you're someone who's booking with a travel agent or not. I've never seen that, the ability to book that directly via the website, but possibly through a travel agent, you would be able to do that. So we got lucky that we ended up in a Nemo suite. And my guess is the only thing I can think of is just that they're more centrally located. So if you're requesting a Nemo suite, you pay a little bit more to be close to the big blue pool and the main building and food court and transportation and those types of things.
I have a question from Katie. She says, Disney doesn't have conjoined rooms anywhere, does it? And I was trying to think about that because I know on Disney Cruise Line they do.
They do. In some of the value resorts, I would have to double and triple check, but I'm almost positive they do. But I believe it's not a guarantee. You can request adjoining rooms in the values, but I do believe it's not a guarantee that you will actually get adjoining rooms. Yeah. So you always want to make sure if you're requesting that you've got adults staying in both rooms, and you'll have to book it that way anyway. You'll have to put adult names on each room. But as far as value resorts, I've got a lot of people here saying Contemporary does, DVC does. Yes, I understand that a lot of those kind of moderate, some moderate, some deluxe ones and DVC and that type of thing. We will get to those resorts.
Yes.
In future shows. So we're just trying to stick to value now just so we can give that information. Maria says, I think Pop has doors that join. I think so as well.
I think so too. I think I've seen them.
Oh, hi, Barbie. Tour guide Barbie's in here. She can maybe help us with this. She is a lovely travel agent. Barbie, do you know if any of the value resorts have adjoining rooms? We'll see what she says. So like I said, I think that they do, but we'll kind of do some additional research here and see if we can get the answer from our chat.
Katie Spez says, when is off season for Disney World? Less people in the parks. That is such a loaded question because everything feels like it has changed since the world changed. And so everything that used to be off season isn't necessarily off season now, but you can usually say if it's not a major holiday and the kids are in school, that's usually a pretty good time to go. And that's usually what I recommend. So not summer, not a major holiday, then try to go in those seasons. I usually go January, February, but a lot of rides are also renovated during that time. They get refurbed. So you just have to, it's a trade-off. The parks have shorter hours then, and a lot of rides get refurbed, but you have shorter waits and less crowds and it's less hot. So, really depends.
Yeah, I would say like end of August before Labor Day, and then like right after Labor Day, but not during Labor Day. And then kind of fall gets busy with the Halloween parties. But yeah, then I would say
like
January.
September's okay.
Yeah.
September's pretty good.
Yeah. And then January, February, if you can avoid holiday weekends in those months, because there are a couple, and race weekends with Run Disney events, then you're pretty good. But those would be where I would say. Okay, so our lovely assistant tour guide Barbie says value and moderate both do have adjoining rooms. So again, that is something that you could look into.
Yeah, Victoria and Kathy both say Pop does, and Clay says All Star Music has conjoined rooms, at least in the Country Fair area. So
okay.
Thank
you.
It sounds like everyone for chiming in.
Thank you. We appreciate your help. So yeah, it sounds like that is an option if you're looking for kind of bigger family options. But yeah, adjoining rooms or rooms next door can obviously be an option if you're looking for kind of that value price. But again, as Kate mentioned, and as some of our commenters mentioned, we'll talk more about kind of renting DVC for bigger families and what that kind of looks like in a few episodes when we get to kind of those. Our goal is to start with value this one, move to moderate next episode, and then the following episode do kind of those deluxe and DVC options. So stay tuned.
Yes. Well, and we haven't really talked about some of the benefits of staying at specifically a Disney resort. I know a lot of them. One is that you get 30-minute early theme park entry for staying at any Disney resort. Now, the deluxe resorts have a benefit of like sometimes they have 2 extra hours at night. So, that if you pay more, sometimes you get a little bit more time in the parks these days. But that 30 minutes, if everybody can get out the door for it, is really like worth it to kind of beat the crowds a little bit and get a little extra time in the parks. We almost always miss it because it's just so hard to get out the door.
Yeah.
30 minutes goes by so fast. It's just
Right.
like done.
And with kids,
But
it can be tricky to get there on time, and some parks are easier to get to than others, depending
yeah.
on buses and Skyliners and all those types of things. So it is a benefit if you feel like you're able to use it. That's definitely for sure. The thing that's nice that I feel like about being on Disney property is that you don't have to leave the Disney bubble. And I know a lot of people like that when they go on their vacation. You know, everything you need is on property. You can get transportation. You can all of the above. It's all there for you. They've got food court amenities, they've got pools, most resorts have a playground or two. So lots of different things for the kids to do, even at that value level.
Yeah.
All of the value resorts have at least 2 pools, which is always a nice feature to have.
yeah, and they have also a lot of extra activities. They have like movies under the stars. Well, they'll do like a big inflatable screen and they'll put it out near the grass or near one of the swimming pools if they have a screen equipped there. And they'll also do campfires at a couple of the resorts. They have campfires as well. So that's really fun activities to do with the kids while you're just at the resort. And yeah, those pools are great. And I think the food court makes a lot of sense for families. You know, there's a lot of options. You can get what you need. I don't remember. I think this is movies. They kind of look like this. And one of the things they do have at Disney resorts that they brought back, which was gone for a while, is refillable mugs. And we haven't really talked about that at all, but I've actually never personally got one of these because I just don't drink that much soda. But you can get fountain drinks. You pay $19.99, I think, for them. And then you get like this is kind of a collection of a few of them. You get this mug that has a little microchip in it. And so you can then go and you put it on the fountain drink stand and then it will it'll sense that you've already paid for it and it will refill it. And so it's like unlimited for your length of stay. You can get all of them. In order to break even for that, it's like about 6 drinks per person. So if you love to drink fountain drinks, this is a great deal if you know you're going to go. But it is like how far away you are from the lobby and you have to kind of plan on when you're going to get it too, you know, so take that.
The nice thing about those is, so we've done the refillable mugs several times, and we literally will price it out like, okay, how much does it cost? How much does a fountain drink cost? Okay, we got to get our money's worth, because we do tend to do, you know, they've got tea, they've got, you know, the sodas and that type of thing, and we fill it up on our way to the buses or the car, fill it up on the way back to the room. You know, anytime we walk by there, we try to swing by and fill that up. But you can also fill it at any resort on property. So let's say you're going to have a lunch somewhere on the Skyliner, like if you're going to the Riviera or anywhere like that, if they've got those soda machines, you can fill them there as well. So that is something to keep in mind. That does
just not in the parks.
Correct.
You
has to be at a resort.
Fill them in the parks, just at a resort. And you also have to have your cup with you, I believe, right? So, you know, if you want to you have to carry your cup around. So if you're okay with putting it in your stroller or a backpack or whatever, then, you know, great. You can get soda and drinks and stuff wherever you're at. Someone asked if the mugs have a timer.
They do. Yes.
They have.
So I think it's like I don't remember if it's a 2-minute window that they won't let you refill that quickly in between.
I think it is too.
So yeah, they do have that timer, but other than that, there's no limit to like how many times you fill it in a day or anything like that. Yes, Jazzy is reminding us, don't forget coffee. You can put coffee in your mugs as well.
Oh yeah.
So
and they are microwavable and dishwasher safe.
Yep.
So I'm not sure if I'd microwave it with a microchip in there. I don't know.
We have when we've brought them home, just knowing that we weren't going to reuse them. But that is, you know, something like that. But
sometimes you can upgrade to the like stainless steel ones too. So they have some really nice ones out there that aren't just plastic.
Yeah, we will fill our mugs in the morning, and then when we take them into the parks, we'll just rinse them out with water and then fill them with water sometimes. We typically still have our water bottles, but then we'll fill them with water as well. That way we have just extra water in case it's needed. And the seal on the lids is decent. It's not a leak-proof seal by any means, but it's a pretty decent seal that if you've got it at least sitting somewhat upright, it's not going to leak all over your stuff. I wouldn't put it like inside of a bag. I don't know that I would trust doing that, but I would definitely leave it upright in like the base of a stroller or something like that.
Like you can put it inside the bag if it's not full of any liquid.
Yes,
like that's
yes,
you're
absolutely,
just gonna carry it.
Yeah.
Once you finish drinking said drink.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's a benefit at any of the resorts. So,
Right.
something to keep in mind with that. We mentioned a little bit about the food court. You've got just basic options at the value resorts. Nothing
They
really
do have special
special.
treats though. They have
Yeah,
some special desserts and stuff.
Yep. The general food is nothing that's really specialty, but they do have typically special seasonal or kind of like event based snacks and treats usually that they have there. Occasionally they'll have like, other little options that will come and go through the different seasons, but it's very straightforward. But my kids always find something that they like there, and they've got a big enough variety that my kids are not stuck eating the same thing every day. That if we were to eat there every day, they would be able to have something different every day.
Although my kids like to eat the same thing every day. Like,
right?
My son would just live on mac and cheese if he could.
Oh,
so we go
that's
to Disney,
my daughter. Yep.
And I let him eat that all the time, and he just thinks it's the best thing ever.
Yeah. Yep.
But I'm like, you got to eat something with it, like fruit, yogurt, something. Like, come on.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Mickey waffles, yeah. Mickey waffles, they do have those at a lot of
Yes.
those value resorts. They've got the Mickey waffles.
Yep. So so the food courts will serve breakfast and then like a lunch dinner time. They're typically open fairly late into the evening. Not usually as late as like if you're staying for super late like hours at the parks. If you're going to like an after event party or anything like that, they're not typically open past like 10 or 11. Depending on the season. So definitely check that out. The other thing that you can do is they do mobile order at the food court. So that's a huge perk if you want to order it from your room and then walk down and pick it up. That way you're not waiting in line to do that. That's a really great option. And a lot of them will have like a separate mobile order station now that you can go to be able to pick up your stuff. They do also do like room service, sort of like room service, where you can order kind of a basic menu of things, pizza, pasta, those types of things, kind of in like more bigger bulk quantities for like family meals, family style. So we've done that before when we just didn't want to leave the room and we'd been swimming all day and we just wanted something easy and just ordered that, and they brought it straight to the room. So that's another thing that you can look into as well. They do like full pizzas and that type of thing.
Yeah, and something I like to do is right before I leave, because I'm traveling back home, is I'll do a mobile order while I'm like maybe waiting for my bus transportation, and I'll ask them for a bag to take it, but they'll actually order a whole bunch of desserts to take home, the ones that travel really well, and I'll stick them in my bag to bring home, and then we have treats for like just, a day or two after, just to bring the magic home with us, because, the Disney blues is a real thing. So
And Allie Beth, chicken nuggets are available. I know they do chicken nuggets, French fries, mac and cheese, pizza, pasta, those types of options. And the All-Star food courts are great. Yeah, I have had no issues with the food. It's not the fanciest food. It's your basic run-of-the-mill kind of food court options, but it's good food. I mean, I've never had any major issues with any of the food courts at the value resorts.
Yeah, I've had some like really good pasta and stuff there. Like they have some good options. I feel like I've never felt like, I'm eating at like a cafeteria or something, Like there's actually some very good things to eat. And I love their kind of seasonal treats that they have, because each resort has their own unique one usually. And so I like to do that. And Anne says she's staying at Riverside getting the beignets. We'll have to talk about all of that when we do the moderate ones.
Next episode.
Yes, next episode.
Well, and the nice thing is about those food courts as well, they always have some sort of fresh fruit. They've got lots of different like juices and waters and things like that if you need to stock up on that type of stuff. We've talked about groceries before. You can always order those groceries in as well to have those options. But if you run out or you're forgetting or you don't feel like ordering groceries and you just want to buy at the resorts, they do have a ton of options for those types of things as well.
Yeah, and another thing we didn't mention is that a lot of them have arcades as well for kids to play games. And I know that this is also true in some moderate resorts and deluxe resorts, but it's just another extra activity that your kids can do, especially if you're... And I feel like Pop Century had a specific scavenger hunt for kind of like classic Disney things. And so I'm going to look a little bit more into that, because I saw something that was like Mike Fink keel boats, and it looked like the old Disney font, and it had a number on it. And I asked somebody, I was like, what is that? Why is Mike Fink keel boats here as a Disney historian? I'm like, what? Like, tell me all the
what
things.
Is happening?
And they're like, this is a scavenger hunt that you can do. So there's like extra activities at each resort as well. that your kids can do. And sometimes they even have like a schedule of like what's available. I know they do that at moderate and deluxe resorts. They'll actually have a schedule of like what's going on for the week and things you
Yep.
can do. So
And what
look for
movies
that
or
when
what
you check
nights
in.
and all that kind of stuff. They definitely have. The pools tend to have a lot of different activities. They'll do games and things like that at the pools. So tons to do, even at the value level. They're definitely very, I mean, all of the Disney resorts are family friendly, but the values especially, they understand that typically a lot of families stay there because it is more cost effective for larger families to typically stay at the value resorts.
I have a question. How expensive is the food in the hotel? And I feel like it's Disney prices.
It
That
is,
doesn't tell you.
yes,
It's like,
it is.
so
Let me see. I've got Pop Century pulled up here.
good.
If
Trying
I
to remember. I don't want
can-
to say anything wrong, but I feel like
Right, I
it's
gotta
kind of
see
typical
if
what
it'll
you
let
pay in the
me
parks is similar
pull.
to what you pay at the resorts.
Yeah, I gotta see if it'll let me pull up the menu.
Yeah, grocery delivery is so clutch. Yeah, I agree. Grocery delivery is how you save a lot of money. And we've
Thank you
talked
for
about
the
that in
roses,
previous
Rhonda.
episode. I think that was in our packing episode, episode 2. Is that 2?
Yes, it was.
Episode 2, we talked all about grocery delivery and how to do that, what companies you could use, how to go about doing that to help save money. So
Absolutely. Sorry, it's very slowly loading. Okay, view menu. So all of these menus, if you are looking at prices and wanting to know, are available in the app, in the My Disney Experience app, and on the website. So if I'm looking at lunch and dinner options, let's see, they've got, so like they've got burgers and chicken for around $11 or $12 for the meal, and it typically comes with a side of like fries. They've got some decent entrees right now. They've got a salmon entree, braised beef. They've got chili, shrimp and grits, buttermilk chicken. Those are all around $15-16 for the meal. Sandwiches around 9 and 10. Pizzas, you can get like a large pizza about $18-19. So it is,
Disney prices,
it's
yeah.
still kind of Disney prices. If you're looking at like kids meals, you can get kids meals for like $7 or $8.
Yeah.
Which if you're someone who doesn't eat a lot, I don't eat that much. I will tend to order a kids meal sometimes.
Or
And
sometimes my younger children will
tons of
split
options.
one, like because there's so much food there. There's no way they're going to finish it. We do that a lot at Disney. Is that they'll split, and I'll bring like supplemental things to like make their meal complete.
Right.
That I've got for my groceries or whatever. So I'll carry that in
Yeah.
my bag. So they still get some Disney food, but it also is cheaper that way. So I tend to do that.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry, too, so you got to give me 1 second. My dogs are barking like crazy upstairs, and I am the only one home, and I really don't want them to wake up my kids.
That's
so
okay.
I will be right
Go
back.
do what you
Sorry,
need to
real
do.
mom life here for a second. I will be right back.
Yeah. Oh, and I see that you say you're hotel hopping to save money. 3 hotels with 9 nights. Yeah, that really can help. And even I've done a lot of hopping within, like doing what they call a split stay in the Disney resort and going from resort to resort, which you could also do in Disney property. They will transfer your bags for you. You just have to make sure you get everything you need for them out of the day for the day out of them before you do that. But that is to stay off property first and then go on property. I think is a great way to go about it. If you can only splurge for like 1 or 2 nights, just don't go the other way. Don't stay on property in like a deluxe or moderate or something and then go off property and stay in a really cheap hotel, because you'll feel like it'll be sad. Because you'll feel like you're going down, and it's just like, oh, okay. So always go the other way. That's the right way to go. Go up, build up in resorts, I say, especially if you're going to do a split stay. I started in a value. I started in movies one time, and then I went to Boardwalk after, and I felt like that was the perfect mix. And I loved both of them for different reasons. They're just different experiences. Your kids get so hot they just snack and never eat meals. Yeah, I know. My kids do that too. So yeah, there's. I think we're gonna see what other things. There's also a lot of there's shops that are specific to these value resorts as well. So sometimes they have their own merch just for the value resorts. I haven't seen as much of that recently, but so you can get some things that are specific for your stay in the store. And they also have things that you might just need for your family in there as well, like sunscreen and extra snacks. And almost all of those Disney resorts have like sundries stores, deodorant, things you might have forgotten in the store. So that's also really helpful if you're traveling and you just like need extra stuff or don't have enough or forgot something. So
Yes, sorry, I'm back. My dogs are barking
okay.
at nothing upstairs, but waking my children up, so it's great.
Oh, that's terrible.
Such is the life. And of course, my husband is like working later tonight than typical on a Thursday. So like normally he'd be home by now. And that's probably why
Oh,
they're barking, because they're angry at me, but it's fine.
that's okay. We understand. It's
Oh
real
my
life.
goodness. My goodness. Yes.
So we've talked about a lot of value resorts. Should we move off property a little
Sure.
bit?
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of run down probably fairly quickly some different off-property resorts. I'll be completely honest with you, and Kate and I were talking about this earlier. I don't ever stay off-property, just my personal preference.
Not at Disney World.
Yeah, I like to
Disneyland,
be.
different story.
Yeah. So I like to be on property. I like to be in that Disney bubble. I feel safe. I feel secure. I know I can get where I need to go. I know that I'm always going to have friendly cast members that are available to help me with stuff. So that's just my personal preference. I enjoy staying on property. But we did want to give you guys some options of what some off-property numbers look like. So let's talk Universal for a moment. Universal has kind of 4 different options that they put in their lowest category of their kind of value resort, so to speak, if you're price comparing. So you've got at Universal Dockside Inn and Suites and Surfside Inn and Suites. And those 2 buildings are basically the same price all the way across. They've got similar structure, similar makeup. For their standard rooms, which we'll sleep 4, kind of comparing to the standard rooms of Disney, looking around $210 a night. Again, same week that I looked at for the All-Stars. So a tiny bit cheaper than kind of what that all-star rate is. But again, Disney, and I don't know how Universal runs their deals and things like that, because I have not stayed at Universal, but Disney tends to run a lot of deals. So typically you can get kind of those cheaper rates like we were talking about earlier. Yes, Barbie, I did say Universal Resorts. So tour guide Barbie, who is in here on my chat, if you have questions about things like Universal and off-property, contact her. She's a great resource to use, or any of the other travel agents we've got in Pocket Fam in the Discord. Feel free. So again, around $210 a night. They do have suites in those options as well. Their suites will run between $250 and $300 a night, depending on what kind of makeup you have in those suites. So some of them are just 2-bedroom suites. Some of them have a pool view. Some of them, different options that you have there for their suites as well. The other 2 resorts that they have are the Aventura Hotel, which I may have said that wrong, and Cabana Bay. So those are looking around $240 a night.
Yeah, I would call those moderates probably.
Yeah, and it was hard to tell, but I was looking at kind of what is in a similar price range to the values that we were finding.
Everything's just cheaper at Universal.
Yes, it just tends to be for, whatever reason you may decide to believe. So around $240 a night, and those do have suites as well that are, that Cabana Bay has suites that are about $300 a night, and the Aventura has ones that are about $400 a night. So just kind of depends on what you're looking. Tour guide Barbie is saying that it looks like 210 is pretty high for those. Oh, for Surfside and Dockside. And that could be, Barbie, I'm looking kind of in the April timeframe, which is a little bit probably higher prices than what maybe is standard. Aventura is considered value. Cabana Bay is considered a high value, she said. So all kind of in that value range at Universal. So that kind of gives you a comparison. And like Kate said, they're just less expensive over there. So if you're a family that's going to split your time between Disney and Universal, that may be something to look into. You obviously would lose a few of the perks that you get from staying on Disney property for doing that, but cost-wise, that may be something that your family wants to do.
Yeah, especially if you want to go to Universal, that would be a great option.
Because I know then those resorts do get perks at Universal. So you get kind of the early entry. Some of the Universal resorts have more perks. The higher end ones have more perks. So it just depends on where you stay. A lot of these kind of lower value resorts have just that kind of extended entry or early access to the parks from Universal.
Yeah. And so then when it comes to like Disney area outside resorts, I know one of the options that I think tour guide Barbie mentioned to us was like Airbnb is a great one, especially if you have a family like Katie Moon. She's like a family of 6. So Airbnb is a great option, or probably Verbo, like anywhere that you would do a vacation rental, where you can find a house or condo or something that actually has a full kitchen and place for you to stay. Those are really great options. And there's some fabulous Disney ones that are all themed out that are nearby, and some of them even have pools and things. So you know, those are great options for families.
Yeah, and I did just a quick search after I kind of saw Barbie stick that in the Discord when we kind of put in there looking for other people's opinions. You can get Airbnbs for, I mean, when I was looking in a range, again, that same week that I had been looking at everything for, 100 to 275 a night, depending on location, amenities, the size of the place, if it's a house or a condo, if it's got a pool, if it, you know, lots of different variables when it comes to Airbnb. When I was looking on Vrbo, there were a little bit cheaper even on there, looking around 85 to, then they do go up to like the 250 a night depending. So those are definitely things to consider. But also if you're staying there, you've got to consider your transportation budget. Are you planning to take an Uber or a Lyft? Are you going to rent a car? Those types of things. And maybe a car rental is what you're planning, knowing that you're going to be staying at an Airbnb off property. You know, those types of things are definitely ones to consider when you're looking at your overall budget, but Airbnb and Vrbo are definitely good options to look into.
Yeah. And then when it comes to hotels themselves, I always say try to look in the Bonnet Creek or Disney Springs area. I feel like those are a lot of the ones that are closer to it. All of you guys can chime in though if you found one that is closer. But that's just what I have read up when I'm researching all this. That those are usually the areas you want to try to stay in. But you looked up actually some hotels, right?
Yep. So I kind of put some feelers out to people, and Kirk got back to me about some of the different options that he stays at. I know, of course. But a lot of the times, especially when he goes for different events, you know, he's staying over tonight because he's going to Halloween Horror Nights. He's staying off property. So definitely look into if you've got already points for a hotel or different, you know, brand of hotels, things like that can be very, very beneficial. But there are tons of Holiday Inn and Holiday Inn Expresses that are all fairly decent and good, you know, decently priced. Again, comparing the same week, looking at 175 to 200 a night, depending on the location and if it's a Holiday Inn or an Express, you know, those types of little variables, but around that. So even, you know, cheaper than those All-Stars that we were looking at for that same week in that moment. Wyndham Garden, Lake Buena Vista in Disney Springs area looks around to be 130 a night.
Anne says that if you sign up as a Wyndham member, you should get 10% off the rooms for that one too.
Okay, so that's good to know. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I looked at the Hilton Buena Vista, Disney Springs. So even when you think Hilton, you know, typically think those are a little nicer hotels, still looking right around 200 a night. So very comparable to those value resorts that you're looking at for Disney.
Kathy says she loves the Holiday Inn near Disney Springs. So another vote for Holiday Inn.
Yeah. Christina had mentioned she likes to stay at the Staybridge, Lake Buena Vista area ones.
Right.
And I looked at their website, they've got so many different configurations of rooms and suites for what you need. They would be a fantastic option. And you're looking around $220 a night, but they've got some 2 and 3 bedroom suites that are like $250, $275 a night, which is not bad at all, considering we were looking at the value resort, you know, suites and looking at over double from what that was, you know, what they were asking. Marriott, you've got the Delta for Marriott looking at about 165 a night, and the Sheraton Lake Buena Vista, they've got regular standard rooms about 135 a night and suites about 235 a night. So I know I ran through a lot of numbers. And titles, if you guys want those, post in Discord or send us a message and we can get you more details about the ones that we kind of found to be ones that people had directly suggested for us. You know, there are some hotels in the area that can be not as nice. I mean, you never know kind of once you go off property, unfortunately, what you may get. Some of the I've been told some of the resorts and the hotels on Hotel Plaza, which is one of the main roads near like the Disney Springs area, can be a little iffy. and to watch out for some of the extra hidden fees on some of those.
Yeah.
And again, with these off-property ones, you're going to have to think about transportation. Some of them do offer shuttles, but they may not be the most convenient timing for what you're looking for. It may be like they take you at 10 a.m. and pick you up at 6 p.m. when you really want to spend all day in the parks. So again, something to consider transportation-wise.
Right, absolutely. I think that if I was to stay off property, I probably would rent a car, especially with a family. I think that would just be the easiest option. So just adding that cost in there, is it still cost effective if you rent a car? You got to weigh that for yourself. But some of those places are significantly cheaper than some of these value resorts for Disney. So
Bree is saying some of the hotels offer transportation to the parks, not always convenient. Emma said we stayed at the B, like the letter B hotel, $77 a night in May. It was a great hotel with free park transportation. That's something to look at as well. Barbie is saying also always check the map for your hotel. Places will claim to be the Disney area, but they'll be at least sometimes 30 minutes away. So that's definitely something to look into. That Disney Springs area has a lot of good options that are fairly close to property without being, and some of those I believe are even technically on property over there. I think isn't the Wyndham technically on property over there? Or very, very close, if not. So, take a look at the map, see where you want to be. If you want to be close to Springs, those options may be really, really great for you. But do keep in mind that even though they are technically Disney Springs area, a lot of the times you're still going to have to take a transportation to Disney Springs. It's not something that's walkable necessarily from those resorts as well. So keep that in mind.
Pretty much just the Disney ones that are walkable, I would say. What is it, like Key West? Is that over there near there? I want to say Saratoga Springs. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yes.
Yeah, Saratoga Springs is right next door to it.
So keep in mind those transportation options are always going to be something that you're going to need to take into account when you're budgeting. Barbie says a lot of the Hotel Boulevard hotels are partner hotels, and you'll still get early access. So Hotel Boulevard hotels is what Barbie is saying over here. So keep that in mind as you're looking as well.
Yeah, and Christina and Katie Moon says that they rent a car and they always drive, and that makes sense. That makes so much sense for staying, especially with kids. Like if I was just like freewheeling it as like just with my husband and it didn't matter as much, but geez, with kids it's so much harder.
Yeah, and do keep in mind again as we're talking about budget and transportation, if you're not staying on property technically at a Disney hotel, you're gonna pay to park at the parks. So again, factor that into your budget. That you're going to get probably at least a $25 a day parking charge if you are planning on driving to parks. Now, parking at Disney Springs is free, so if you're going to shop or eat dinner or whatever it may be, over at Disney Springs, the parking over there is free. But if you are going to park at the parks, do keep that in mind.
Yep, that's great.
So that was a lot of information about Disney World.
Well, Disneyland doesn't have quite as much to talk about, so it's okay.
So again, I literally had like 2 full pages. So again, if there's anything we talked about or any hotels that you're like, oh, can you tell me the name of it? Post in Discord, send us a message. We'll try to get some of this compiled into an infographic. We still owe you an infographic from last week too. Life has been very busy with me prepping for my trip and Kate going through a whole lot of, there's a bug, sorry. Whole lot of job change things, life changes. So we will get those to you guys as soon as we can. But feel free to message and reach out to us in the meantime, so that way we can help give you guys the information you're looking for.
Katie Moon says, don't you have to pay now to park in the value resorts too? I'm pretty sure it's $25 a night, like every.
It's either 20 or 25. I can't remember offhand, and if Barbie is still in here, she probably knows. But
unless you're renting DVC, in which case it's free because it's included. So.
Yes, let me see if I can find. I'm on the Disney website right now, so let me see if I can search and find that savings. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, Barbie's looking at all of them. Yes, you are paying the apartment fee. Pretty much anywhere you go. Let me see.
What are you looking up? I'm like, I missed it.
To see how much the parking fee is.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll start talking about Disneyland while you look that up if you want.
Go for it. That would be great.
Disneyland is, just to give a tiny bit of Disney history, since that's my thing. When Walt Disney built Disneyland, he only had so much money, and it was honestly in the middle of all of these orange groves, kind of in the middle of nowhere. And so they only purchased so much land to build this resort because that's all the money they had in order to build the rest of Disneyland. So they could not purchase all of the land that's around Disneyland. And as soon as Disneyland was going to be a successful thing, remember everybody called it Walt's Folly, and they didn't think it was going to be successful. But once they realized it was, everybody bought up all of the land around Disneyland and they had no money to do anything with it, which is a large reason why Disney did the Florida project and purchased all the land in Florida so that he could build it the way he wanted with all of the resorts and all the things. And they have way more land than they might ever use, in Florida. And that's a whole nother story about how they did that, which was great. There's actually like buying something. There's a really great book about it. But anyway, so it's kind of like a covert CIA operation. Reads like a spy novel. So it was a really great book about it. Anyway, so Disneyland, when you're thinking about going to Disneyland, you've got to think about how, so the Disney properties, there's only 3 of them, which we'll talk more about in our deluxe one, because they really are all deluxe resorts and they're very, very expensive. Very expensive. And the only way I've ever stayed in one was by renting DVC points because I couldn't afford it any other way, quite honestly. So in Disneyland, the best thing about Disneyland is that you can walk to the resorts. And from almost anywhere that you stay around there, you can walk, which is fabulous. It's like less than a 5 to 10 minute walk from most of the places that surround it because Disney doesn't own those properties and all these motels got built about it. And they couldn't necessarily charge a lot for these motels now if they're still using those old buildings because they're dated and old. Like, who wants to pay a lot to stay in a motel, right? So it's like with a parking lot in the middle. So because of that, I was looking up, I know my like go-to places to stay are more in the moderate price level usually for me, just because of how I travel and being a woman alone, and I'm trying to make sure I'm safe and I don't walk very far. But I did do a lot of research on where are some places that are really good, clean places, safe places, maybe some ones that serve continental breakfast, because that can really help your costs. A lot of these places do, and some of them even have, little verandas you can eat on that are really lovely, and which ones have pools as well for kids. So looking up some of those, I would say your best strategy is to make sure you can try to get on Harbor Boulevard if you can. Harbor Boulevard, if you're looking at Disney, it like runs all the way down the side of Disney, and the entrance to Disney's in the middle of that section, okay? Because that's like where the entrance plaza is. So the closer you can get to that little entrance area, that's the better place to stay. But those hotels tend to be a little bit more expensive because of their location, because it's literally 5-minute walk to the gate. So if you go down Harbor Boulevard, at the bottom of Disneyland is Catella Avenue. So we have Harbor Boulevard and Catella. And so in the other side of Catella, there is a area that is Disneyland Drive, which is kind of like the back entrance that goes up to the Disneyland Hotel, and then through downtown Disney. You can walk through to get to the parks. It's a little longer of a walk. But if you do that, a lot of the way is walking on Disney property. So it's relatively safe. It's still Anaheim, so be safe.
Yeah. But you're going to have probably well lit and sidewalks to walk on that
Disney property, right?
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of parts of Anaheim that have a lot of homeless people, or there's a lot of things. It's a place. So you just have to be careful where you go. So anyway, that's being said, the ones that are down here on Catella Avenue are a little bit cheaper. So those are usually probably ones that you'll end up looking into if you want to stay. And honestly, I use TripAdvisor a lot. I go by things that I know have had solid reviews, solid pictures for safety, for cleanliness, for all the things that I need. That's usually my go-to. The Anaheim Hotel is one of the closest ones that I found that was under $200. I was like, where can I find that's under $200 that I could recommend? Yeah. Anaheim Hotel's got really great reviews, and a lot of the time it's under $200 unless you get a suite. It brings it up past that. Also, the Alamo Inn used to be really super sketchy, but they renovated it recently and actually looks really nice now. But it definitely is I think it's like $150 per night, so very solid, or even less if they're running a deal. So that one's real solid. Kate is trying to say it's sketchy without saying it's sketchy. It is a little bit. LA is a dangerous place sometimes. It
Yeah.
depends on where you're at. Like a lot of cities are, but it can be very dangerous. But I would say right around the Disney area is not too bad. It's just you just be careful where you go. But
It's so different from Disney World when you've got the whole property and the Disney bubble and all that. You know, you're not in downtown Orlando. You're completely separate. So it's just a totally different feel when it comes to walking around.
yeah,
The
it
areas.
is. And Disneyland has 3 resorts. They have I think they're turning it into a different one. I'm trying to say Paradise Pier. Is that what it's called? They've got that one that I like never recommend, so I don't ever remember the name of it. And then they have the Disneyland Hotel, and then the Grand Californian, which is my absolute favorite. The Disneyland Hotel has a lot of history, so I go there just to walk around it and see all the like historic pictures and stuff. But the Grand Californian is my favorite, and we'll talk more about that later. I won't get into all the details about why it is, but those ones are really like the Disney bubble, like you're talking about. If you want to stay in the Disney bubble, those are the places you have to stay, and they're very expensive. So, so you know, you can save your pennies for a really long time if you want to stay in the Disney bubble, I guess. Or you can rent DVC points, which again will be in another episode. We'll go into that. So, but Disneyland itself, there's another one. Hotel Indigo wasn't too bad. It got some good reviews. King's Inn got a lot of really great reviews that I saw. I have not stayed in a lot of these places because I have my like solid places. There's a Holiday Inn there too. That's a Holiday Inn and Suites that I feel like we can just solidly recommend Holiday Inn for families in general. Like it seems
Yeah.
across the board pretty good. But my best advice is try to stay as close as possible, because even when you're looking on the maps, they're like, oh, it's just like a half block away. Like those blocks are super long. Like like 10-minute, 20-minute walk at least. It's especially with kids at the end of the night. Stay as close as possible to the resort entrance. That's my best Disneyland advice.
Yes. And map it with your maps on your phone and do the walking directions and see how
Yes.
long it's going to take, because it may be further than you think.
Yeah, those ones on Catella Avenue, they can be like a 22-minute walk to the gates. So it's not a close walk, and some of them do offer shuttles, but usually they don't, because they know people are just going to walk on Disney property. So
Right. It's
they don't
close
have
enough.
shuttles. Yeah.
Emma said sometimes the Midwest Holiday Inns can be sketchy. You're not wrong, Emma, but typically the ones that we're looking at in Orlando
Disney
and
ones.
Disney, Disney ones seem to be good. Well, and a lot of those ones that you have where they're kind of the chain ones that you're used to hearing, they've got to stay relevant, and they've got to try to compete and get people to stay there. And so a lot of them are doing what they need to do, which is helpful for those of us that are traveling on a budget.
Yeah. Well, and I love that the Disneyland ones, because they're kind of this like mid-century feel to them, because that's when they were created. A lot of them are doing some really creative renovations and turning them into like boutique hotels, which I think is
Very
really
cool.
fun, you know, instead of just demolishing them and building something new, which a few of them have been. They're really trying to make the most of what they have, I suppose, is the best way to
And the
put it.
space that they have, because a
The
lot of them are
space.
completely confined to, their tiny lots that they've had for centuries.
Yeah. And something I always ask, sometimes I'll even call the hotel and ask, I have to make sure that they have a place to hold my bags if I'm flying. Like, do you have a secure place to hold my bags during the day in case I have to check out, but I'm still going to the parks, or check in early, same thing. I ask that question. I also ask if they have a night security guard that's on property, especially if you are parking there or have a rental car, because there are people that do car break-ins and stuff. And so I always feel much more secure if I know there's security walking around the campus at night, that, somebody's not going to try to get in my room, or, because it's just so kind of exposed staying in motels. It's not the value resorts at Disney.
Right. Jazzy's saying there's a Marriott right across the street on Coachella that is pretty okay, and it's themed, she said. So
Yeah, there's some great ones that are moderate level. I'm just talking budget hotels. So
yeah,
we'll
bottom,
definitely next
bottom
time,
level.
I'll give you all the great moderate ones that I have personally stayed in and know a lot about in the next one. This one is just kind of like, how do you get there on a very small budget? So that's what I'd recommend. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
I think that's all I got for Disneyland. It's
Yeah.
just
So Disneyland, pretty straightforward. Again, like we said, Disney World has a lot, just because it's such, a bigger area, more space to work with, more hotels to work with. So, Again, if we went over anything that you're like, oh, I need to hear that again, I need to, I want to know what the names of these hotels were, feel free to reach out to us. We are more than happy to send you over the little bit of research that we did. We try to give you a big picture and give you all the information that we can so you guys can help plan your own trips and be successful with that.
Absolutely. And the Discord there's links in our bios to join the Pocket Fam Walrus Carp Discord. So if you're wondering what we're talking about, that's what we're talking about. And we're just a great community of people who love Disney. And we've got a special channel on there for Mom Street USA. And you can ask us any questions anytime, and we'll respond as soon as we're able.
Yeah, absolutely. Jazzy's saying at that Marriott, she's gotten rooms there before under $100 a night. So that's definitely great. One to add to that kind of value category list.
I'll write it down. Thanks, Jazzy.
We always appreciate the help. So now, what are the food options like at some of those resorts? Do they typically have food courts, or are they more straightforward?
No.
Yeah.
No, they're small. They're very, they have limited rooms and space. Some of them they'll do that continental breakfast. That's pretty common. Some of them will even do a hot breakfast. But there's a lot of options to eat that are nearby on Catella and Harbor. There's an IHOP. There's a Denny's, I think. There's a whole bunch of just family friendly places to eat that are just on those streets. So, and again, you can also get the grocery delivery as well. That's always really handy. I do that. I think Vaughn's is one that delivers, and then Amazon Prime, Amazon Fresh or whatever they call it. But so I do grocery delivery too there. And then you can also walk pretty easily to downtown Disney from any of those resorts, and they have all kinds of restaurants there as well. Of course, they're a little more spendy. It's Disney, right? But there's lots of options to do express windows and stuff for kids. We love to do, I think it's Via Napoli is the name of it, but it's the pizza place that's in Disney Springs. We love to order maybe 2 pizzas for the family, and we all just kind of eat them really quickly. So that's one of our favorite places.
Yeah. Jazzy is saying all of Coachella is a food court. So apparently lots of options in that area as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a ton.
Yeah.
It's just the whole area is just hotels and restaurants. So
yeah. Barbie is asking, is Mimi's Cafe still open across the street from Disneyland?
That's a great question. I'll look when I go. I don't know. So we should probably just Google it, but it'll be faster. Right. But I don't know. That's a great question. I've never been there. So that's new to me.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Add it to your list of things to scope out whenever you go.
To write down. Especially if it's budget friendly. I need those things right now. Let's see. Mimi's Cafe. So I think that's all I have.
Yes, Todd had a good comment. All of this just depends on your family goals and dynamics. Exactly what you're looking for, and what type of, if you're worried about theming and amenities or pools or food options or whatever it may be. All good things that you definitely want to make sure that you're looking at for your resort, to make sure it has what you're going to need. If you're ordering groceries or not ordering groceries, all those things that we've talked about up to this point, for kind of your prep before you get there. Those are things that you want to consider when looking at your hotel. Because I know that even too for us, in the standard values, there's not a ton of space to do food prep. They have the tables, but if you've got kids that are eating and you're trying to prep lunches, there's not a ton of space. So kind of planning accordingly for that, especially if you're, a lot of the times we utilize the top of that dresser for things, charging and whatever it may be. So, that's pretty much your only counter space that you've got is the top of that dresser in those standard rooms. So things like that are just, knowing what space you're going to need are good to know. I did want to mention, because I had forgotten when we talked about kind of the space again in the value resorts, that we have been able to, no problem, have double strollers. We do typically the front to back strollers. We've been able to have double strollers in there and them not be in the way. We've been able to have, even with our pack and play, or that type of a setup, we've been able to have that in there. So they're tight, but there is enough space for kind of what your family may need depending on strollers and pack and plays and those types of things. So the other thing,
I've seen people leave their strollers outside the rooms in values too. I've never done that, but there's people that do that. So
I mean, it
Well, I guess
probably would be okay, but again, it's one of those things that like, are you willing to risk it and willing to then have to either try to rent very quickly or use a park stroller? That's up to you. That would be your own discretion.
Yeah, I will just say people do that. I don't know if I would do that, but people do that.
Yes. And being in Disney World, different from Disneyland, but like because we drive to the parks, we leave our stroller in our van. So we don't ever have to worry about hauling it back and forth. Again, Disney World.
You keep bragging how you have all this car space.
I'm just saying, it's the truth.
He was like, I just take my whole house with me because it's easier.
You're not wrong. It's fine. That's what minivans and SUVs are good for when you're traveling.
You're not wrong. I did love driving to parks for that reason. I've done it once with the kids, but oh gosh, that's so funny.
Yeah, people are saying I'm here. Yeah, like Kristen said, when my kids were approximately 4 or 5, we bought a $20 cheap umbrella stroller and then used them, and it didn't really matter if they were stolen at that point. Exactly. There are tons of options, and we've talked about stroller options in previous episodes, but again, tons of options when it comes to that. Alex is saying for a side-by-side double at Pop, we had to pull up the extra bed every time, but it does fit. So can't get it in and out maybe quite as easily if you've got the side-by-side doubles, but again, they do fit in kind of that extra space near the kitchenette area, kind of between the kitchen and the window in those rooms. So there is some space to play with there, especially if you've been able to put like suitcases and things underneath. Some strollers that fold super flat with your value resort.
Just play a lot of Tetris before you go for practice.
Somehow, some way, it will all fit.
It's almost, like I always tell my husband that. He's just like, I don't know if everything will fit in here. And I was like, oh, I will make it fit. We will find a way. We have like stacked suitcases on top of each other to make things work. We will figure it out, because you got to do, especially if you just, need to save the money to be able to take your kids to Disney. You will figure it out. There's a will, there's a way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tetris packing. Exactly, Chassie.
Put in the bathroom with the pack and play.
I mean, you're not wrong. Those bathrooms do have some storage in there. They've got some little cubbies and some hangers and stuff. You have plenty of space.
There's all kinds of, I have done food prep in the kitchen area too, in those value resorts, because it actually has not a ton of counter space, but enough like cubby area that you can kind of stack things around to prep things. And sometimes we just use an extra towel and just lay it out on the bed so we don't make a huge mess and just do stuff on top of there if we're just like packing sandwiches or something. But I know it's not going to spill something on the bed, like that. But that's really handy to be able to spread stuff out. You just make the most of what you got.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing is just kind of like knowing what space you're going to need when you go to unpack your stuff. Because I mean, even like in my family, we've been a ton, but we just have a tendency like, okay, throw this here, throw that there. It's like, no, you got to like leave a little bit of space for this and leave a little bit of space over here for this. And honestly, that's part of the reason why I'm really excited for the suite that we're staying in, because the one big thing that's different between the All-Star Music Suite and the Art of Animation Suite is the kitchen space. And I forgot to mention this earlier. So if you're looking at those suites, keep in mind the kitchenettes in the Art of Animation suites are very small. There is maybe 1.5 feet worth of counter space at the edge of the sink. They do have kind of multiple levels that you can store things in, similar to like the standard rooms, but they don't have a ton of space. In the All-Star Music suites, there is like a full walk-in little kitchen, a full-size refrigerator, and a microwave. So like huge game changer to have that space. So that was one of the main reasons why we wanted to try it out and see if it was worth the little bit of extra that those suites cost in comparison. So
I think that's great. Like I'm interested to hear about it.
Yeah, I'm super excited to hear about it. Melinda says just shove it all in there and quickly shut the lid down. And if it shuts, that's all that matters. And yes, like Alex, it is true. Like you can request microwaves at the value resorts. It's not guaranteed. They may not have any available, but you can request microwaves. That is something that you can do. Now, that being said, there are like free use microwaves available in the food courts, typically around the like drink stations and like utensils and all that. They will have microwaves there before. So we have requested microwaves before and they have not had any. So we would just, if we're making like oatmeal or something, we just run down there really quick, heat it up and bring it back to the room. So, but that is true. You can, or you can use hot water out of your coffee maker, depending on.
We do that a lot.
Yeah. Depending on, some of those coffee makers are probably cleaner than others. So depending on,
yeah,
you might want to run a cycle before you use it.
Yeah, for sure. Do that. Just for, it's not going to hurt anybody to do that. Just saying. And, you know, we didn't really talk about the standard room versus the preferred rooms too, because there's two kind of like pricing tiers for values besides the family suites. So they're just your standard room, and then the preferred room tends to be closer to like the transportation or the lobby, or just like, so it's less of a walk, because some of these value resorts, they sprawl like really far. And if you are using Disney transportation and you don't have a car to park near it, it can be a walk to get to all of those amenities and things. So
yeah, so that's something to definitely look at, because you can see on maps even, or like if you just do a quick Google search to see which buildings are preferred buildings and which buildings are standard buildings. When you do check-in for hotels as well, you can request different things. Again, not guaranteed, but you can request being on the ground level. You can request being close to transportation. You can request specific building numbers if you do like a fax-in request. Those aren't offered on the online version, but you can. There are fax numbers that you can fax in requests to, like old school style. That is an option
not all
as well.
Guaranteed, though, unfortunately.
Exactly. None of that is guaranteed.
Yeah.
If you're in a preferred room, you're guaranteed to get in one of those buildings that they're calling preferred. And typically, like Kate said, they are the closest buildings to everything. So again, it's just kind of luck of the draw, and just depends on what they've got available, what they're able to do. If you're requesting early check-in, you know, there's lots of variables to that. But those are different things that you can request.
Yeah, and the preferred rooms do cost a little bit more than the standard ones, so you've got to decide if that's worth it to you, or you'd rather save the money. So
yep. So the prices that I gave you were just for standard rooms. So if you're looking ahead, if you're looking at those kind of preferred rooms, you're going to be looking at $50 more a night ish, depending. Some are more, some are less. You know, it really just depends. But again, for the Disney World website, if you're looking at those value resorts on property, it's going to break it down very, very easily for you. So you can see all the different options and preferred. And some of them have different views if you want a pool view, or you want, you know, those types of things as well. And some of that we'll get into a little bit more with moderates and deluxes too, because I feel like they have even more kind of little options that you can choose. But a lot of the value are just standard or preferred for the most part.
Yeah, and I love on the touringplans.com, they have a great room finder where you can like actually see the view from that room of like almost any room on property. If they don't have one, they have one that's very close to it. So that's a great resource for if you want to see like what kind of room you might want. But again, and touring plans themselves, if you have a subscription there, and I'm not paid by them or anything, I've just used them a long time. They actually have a service where they'll send in a room request for you. So you can go on the room finder, find a room you like, click on it and say, I want this for my stay. And then they will send, at 30 days out, they'll send a fax for you. So you don't even have to think about it, which I've always liked. But it's been real hit or miss for me whether or not I actually get my request. Last time I did not get anything close to what I requested. And we had a horrible view at the Poly of the parking lot. So you just take it in stride. You just hope for the best.
Yeah. And Barbie is saying you can also call ahead to make requests. It will be on the notes and things can then be set up in advance. So things like pack and plays, microwaves, those types of requests that you're looking at, definitely you want to call ahead. So that way things are already possibly even in your room or on the way to your room whenever you get kind of your notification. The other thing I do want to mention is you will definitely want to do early check-in on your app if you're staying on property. And I don't know, does Disneyland offer that for their on-property hotels? Do you know for sure?
I think so.
We may
it's
have
been
to
so
look
long
into
since
it.
I've done it. I don't know.
Right.
Like, Because I did DVC last time. So
Okay.
I don't know. I'd
So
have to look it up. I
yeah,
think
so
so.
I would definitely they will tell you to on the website for Disney World. It's not something that you're going to miss if you're kind of scoping out and checking your information on there. But do your early check-in. And for us specifically, we typically arrive before the 3 p.m. check-in time. So we always request an early check-in, and like it will give you the option under there to select different like requests, but then it'll also show where you can select like check this box here if your early check-in time supersedes these other requests. So those are kind of they let you kind of prioritize those. So that's something that we typically do. Disney is really accommodating for that. On our last trip, we got into the resort about 7:30 a.m. I had requested an early check-in, and by I think 8:45 our room was ready.
Yeah. That
So
is true, except for DVC. DVC is usually not till afternoon. So
yeah. So
downside of
again,
that,
nothing is guaranteed when it comes to that. You can request all you want and just hope for the best. And if you don't get something like a microwave or whatever that may be, always go up to the front desk and see if they can help you out and make sure that it got noted. And, things happen in computer systems and whatever it may be. So, a little bit of please and thank you can go a long way with those cast members too.
be really
For
kind.
sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like I would, anything that you request. I know this last time at the Poly, like I went to the front desk and I was like, it's my husband's first time here. Is there anything you can do? And she was so sweet about it. And she was like, unfortunately, like everybody's been checked in. If they hadn't had somebody checked in, they might have been able to move us. Mm-hmm. But even that, and I'm like, in my head, I'm just like, well, then somebody else would have ended up with that room, and then I'd feel really bad. And so it's probably for the best that it ended up as it is. But yes, always be really kind and understanding too if they can't do it. I was heartbroken, but I also didn't yell at her or anything. I was like, "Thank you for your time." She tried.
Like,
she tried.
Thank you for checking. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tran asked a good question. She said, "How important are room views for you guys?" And she said, "Open for anyone in the chat to answer." For me, honestly, it doesn't really matter personally because we're always staying at value resorts, and for me, the view really doesn't matter. I typically don't request like pool view because in the afternoon, my kiddos still like to have their downtime, and the pool areas can be a little more noisy than the other areas. We've had issues years ago, specifically at Pop Century, that like the main, the Hippy Dippy pool, I think, plays very loud music, which is totally fine, as they should. However, when we were trying to nap, it was not great. So those are the only really things that matter to me as far as that goes, but I don't really look at room view at the values, at least.
Yeah, and I think Anne brings it up. She says, depends if you spend more time in the hotel or not. And I also think I think it makes more of a difference in the deluxe resorts than anywhere else. Like I'm going to for sure try to request a view in Animal Kingdom, especially if I'm like in a standard view, but I'm trying to get a Savannah View room because there's some hidden Savannah View rooms. So I'm like for sure going to try that. I think for the value and stuff, like you can't see much out your window. So I think it's more like location that I'd be requesting. Like I want these buildings, especially for, let's say, Caribbean Beach, that there's some that are closer to the Skyliner. If you want that, so I would say I request more for location than view in probably for moderate and value. But in deluxe, I request view because sometimes you can get a water view or partial water view that you would have to pay a higher price to get it if you're trying to do a standard. If you're paying standard, but you want to try to get like a sneaky water view, I think that is important. Yeah. And there are some rooms that are truly awful in some of those rooms, like the ones that face the parking lot. I got a great view of the Ticket and Transportation Center.
And you can some people watch with your binoculars, right?
We didn't get any. I was like the Polynesian. I was so ready for the tiki torches and like palm trees, and I had none of it. I was so sad. So that's why I say, though, that's when I think it becomes a little more important. But for value, I'd say location would be probably the reason you would want to do a room request more than anything else.
That's exactly what Kathy said too. Depends on where I'm staying. I'm more location than view, and I think that especially at the values, like Kate was saying, there's not a ton that you can really see.
Yeah. Well,
it
and
just,
some of
it
the
is what it
values are
is.
really like the buildings and the values will be really often left field and moderates too, because they're huge resorts. And so
Yeah.
sometimes you'll end up walking like 10 to 15 minutes to get to
Yeah.
transportation. If you just say, I don't care where you put me, they're going to put you out there.
Right.
They
Right.
will every
Exactly.
time.
Yeah. And do building number requests, room number requests, all of that, especially at the values. Now, some of them, for example, like when I was looking at music, the suites are almost in like preferred buildings. They're the buildings closest to all of the like amenities and everything. So like for that, I knew that when I put in my request, I didn't need to request that because we were automatically going to be put in one of those buildings. So if you're in a specific type of room already, a suite or whatever it may be, look into that. So that way, when you do your early check-in and your online check-in, you know what makes sense for you to request.
Yeah.
Because if you're already going to be close to transportation, don't put that on your information. You don't need to.
Right,
You can
right.
request ground floor then if you want to be on the, whatever it may be that you're looking at requesting. So those are things to definitely keep in mind. And a lot of that I can find on, Touring Plans has a ton of information. Just Googling and looking for, you guys know, there are so many Disney bloggers and vloggers and people who have done room tours and all of the above. Just looking at some of that stuff online takes, all of 10 minutes maybe at the most to find what you're looking for.
Yeah. And Todd says it really depends on how much time you spend in the resort and who is with you when you're talking about which room you're requesting. So that's true. Like if I was going to travel, let's say with the grandparents of my kids, and I knew they were going to go spend a lot of time in the resort during the day, I'd probably try to get them at least a place where they didn't have to do a lot of walking to the room, or they were close to whatever amenity they might like, if they like the pool, if they like so I would, it definitely depends on your family's needs and what you're in. Yep, I agree with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for all of your comments and your input and your questions tonight. It's so helpful for us to be able to read the information, answer questions live, kind of all of that. It adds so much to our show. So thank you for those of you who have been contributing. And if you joined us late, remember that we do archive our episodes via podcast and on YouTube. So in the next few days, this episode will be available for you guys to listen to if you missed any of the information or want to hear it again. Or again, like we said, we went over a ton. So feel free to post on Discord, send us a message. All of our contact information, all of our social media for Mom Street is all available in our bios. So keep that in mind. I gotta mirror myself. Oh, wait, I gotta turn this off. If you're interested in our fancy new little stickers we got.
Oh,
those
I have the shirt.
Oh, yes. Those are available as well as our shirts on Kate's website, disneycicerone.com. That link is also in our bios under the Mom Street information on there. So keep that in mind if that's something you'd like. We had our first sticker order today, so jump on it while you can. And then, Kate, did you want to talk about the shirts really briefly?
Yeah. And Mama Jojo, yes. Mom Street, I love the name too. I think that was it was fun when we came up with that. We weighed a lot of options about what we would do, but
we did.
So the shirts, we have both. Right now we have long sleeve and short sleeve available, and I'm going to look into a hoodie. I'm just trying to find one that's not super expensive, because some of them are like start at like $50. I was like, this is spendy. So I'm trying to find an affordable option for you guys. But the shirts right now, they're priced at $16 a piece. Unfortunately, because of production costs going up just with my supplier, I have to raise the price on them by October 10th will be our last day for them to be at $16 a piece, and then the price will go up. So if you want a Mom Street USA shirt and you want it for kind of a discounted price, that now is your time. Your time to do it. The link is in my bio. It's at shop. So it'll be real easy to find. But they're really super comfy shirts. They're Bella Canvas, and there's a ton of colors that you can choose from. And then you can just wear them around the house or in the parks or anywhere you like. So
yeah.
But there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we wish we didn't have to raise prices, but there's really nothing we can do, unfortunately.
No, just the world is costing more.
Yeah. Again, like we said, we try to price our merch as low as possible. So we're still making a little bit so that we can put back into the community for you guys. But ultimately, we just want you guys to have it. Yes, Allie, stickers. We just got them. So they just went up on the website a few days ago. So feel free to have at it. The sticker price will not be changing. That is something that will be set. So we made sure that those would be good for you guys. And then, just if you, again, like Kate said, if you want to get it at quote unquote a discounted price, order before the 10th. That way you guys can have that price locked in.
Yeah, and I will say that if you order things, if you order stickers or shirts, sometimes you'll get them as parts of your order. You'll get them from multiple locations, because right now Jackie has all our stickers. Some of them are coming to me, but you might get something from Jackie and something from my print shop, and maybe a note from me if you order some of my stickers too. So you might get them from multiple places, but we'll communicate with you if that's the case. So just FYI. But we also really appreciate your support, and also, like we said, a lot of the money goes right back into Mom Street so that we can do giveaways for you guys. I would love to do some sticker giveaways and shirt giveaways coming up soon. So look out for that. And we'll let Jackie go have a nice vacation in Disney World first. Then we'll do some more giveaways.
I am hopefully going to be picking up at least one item for a giveaway while I'm down in the parks next week. So stay tuned for that. We will announce that once that officially is in my hands.
So exciting.
And we will go from there. So speaking of next week, I will be gone in Disney World. About 9 o'clock on Thursday, I will be at Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party with my family. Yay. And Ellie and Kirk and Gina. So we will be hanging out there. But Kate will be here with our good friend.
I will be here.
Yes. With our good friend Sarah, who is the Three Mouseketeers on here. A lot of you guys know her, follow her. She's a fantastic Disney creator. She's a Disney mom. She's a former cast member. So she's got tons of great insight for the parks. So Kate and Sarah will be on next week's episode. So be sure to be ready to tune in for that. So same time, same night, all that good stuff. But just minus me and plus Sarah.
Yeah. Bring your questions for Sarah, for cast member / mom Sarah. So she's got lots of things to say. Sarah was live today and raving about me. Oh, that's so sweet.
Sarah is so wonderful.
She's lovely. Such a lovely person. I cannot wait to have a conversation with her. Because we talk via text, but we never get to talk face to face. So
I cannot wait to listen to it after the fact. I will not be live in the chat as I may pop in and say hi, and that might be it.
I think that's all you should do. And then you should enjoy your family. It'll be great. Are you going to go live in the parks at all? I know you're with family. So
I'm hoping to. I'm not sure how much. I haven't, I definitely want to respect the privacy of especially my in-laws. I've gone live with my family before. My husband is all for it. But I want to respect the privacy of my in-laws if they're not comfortable. So I have to have that discussion with them and kind of feel it out and see. I do plan on being live for some of the Halloween party for sure. So that'll be Thursday night. I will hopefully not overlap too much with Mom Street that night, but it just depends on kind of what the schedule is for the evening.
We can all bounce back and forth. Well, I can't,
exactly.
But everybody else can bounce back and forth.
I'd love to bring you guys the shows and the parades and the fireworks and those types of things while we're there that evening. So we'll see. I told a couple of the Pocket Fam that I promised I would go live at Magic Kingdom when I ride Splash Mountain because shocker, I've never ridden Splash Mountain before.
What? Hold on. What?
Okay, so I'm not a water ride person. I don't enjoy water rides at all.
Get a poncho. Come on, girl.
And for the longest time, I just didn't have any sort of attachment to Splash Mountain just personally. The more that I have read about the parks and the more I've been in the parks, the more that I'm like, oh, I should ride that. And it was on our list to get to last trip, and I don't even know what happened, and we just didn't get to it. So it is on our list to do first or second when we go to Magic Kingdom. So that'll be Wednesday morning, next Wednesday.
I feel like there should be a penalty if you don't do it. We'll just
and it is now, I have announced, so everyone that is in here can
Hold you
hear
accountable.
and can hold me accountable. But I promised my wonderful pocket friend Christina that I would go live and show myself riding Splash Mountain for the first time. And I've got to get a ride in before they change it. And that's been my intent all along. But I really don't do water rides, you guys.
So you didn't do Kali River either?
No, I've never ridden Kali River Rapids either. I know. I'm just not a water ride person. I don't go to water parks. I'm just not a water person. I don't
go to
enjoy
water
the
parks
pool.
either, so I
don't
get
enjoy
that. I know.
swimming that much. Like
I
I'll
don't
go with
swim
my
either.
kids. See? Like it's just not my thing. I know. My chat is
put on a
freaking out on
poncho.
me right now.
I know. I just put a
know.
poncho on because I'm not really a huge water, like, get wet person either.
Yeah.
But I'll just put a poncho on and then I'm not, like, hardly wet at all. So that's...
Well, and I'll ride it early
Wear your
with my poncho on, and I'll survive. I'll be okay. But so I did promise that I would go live for that, and then I will post the replay of that probably on my TikTok channel just for all of your enjoyment.
Oh my gosh. Anne says Pirates and Three Caballeros, they're water rides, but you don't get that wet at Disney World.
And I've
Disneyland,
done
you do.
Pirates, Three Caballeros, Frozen, all of those boat rides. I'll do all of those, even if you get a little splashing
Frozen,
here and there.
you do kind of, your back gets wet where you
Yeah.
sit, like in Frozen.
And Pirates,
like,
if you
it's
time
always
those
wet.
cannons wrong, you do get pretty wet on our Pirates too. But yeah,
Disneyland,
so
you get going down the 2 drops, you get wet. So
Oh, do you?
It's a little bit like Splash,
Yeah.
not quite as bad.
Yeah. So I know. My chat is yelling at me. I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
They're like, how is this possible?
I know. Literally. Well, and it's hysterical. And I may have ridden it when I was like a little kid, like when I went on my first or second trip, and I just don't remember it. I'd have to ask my mom to see, because like my first trip I was like 5 when I went.
Maybe you have like secret trauma with it. Like maybe you went on it 5 and you were terrified, and you like now you just like aversion.
I know. So yes, I will be record. And yes, Todd, I will record it because wonky service on Splash. Yes, I will record it as well, just to make sure. I already warned my husband that I would be borrowing his phone for some recording so I can do live and recording at the same time.
I have been there. You feel really weird when you do that because people start looking at you like, what are you doing, lady?
I know. So I will be live for at least that moment. I may just kind of pop in and out sporadically. It just really depends on, again, what my in-laws are comfortable with, what we're doing, how my kids are doing, all of that type of stuff. So I want to be as aware as possible for my kiddos. But that is one that
so important.
Yes, that is one that I did promise. So you'll get some live from me on Wednesday morning, and then probably Thursday night during the Halloween party. I do also plan on doing a resort tour either Sunday when we check in or on Thursday during the day before the party. Because I know a lot of people also want to see, a lot of people also want to see those, the rooms, the suites that I'm staying in at Music, because I feel like it's like a hidden gem. It's one of those things that like not a lot of people realize are there. So I definitely want to give you guys a look at all of that. So
just be safe. There's a lot of weirdos out there. Be safe. Don't show them where you're staying.
No, I will, and I will not show room numbers or any of that type of thing. It is
so many weird people out there.
I know. It is what it is, and luckily for the most part, I'm traveling with a group, and I feel safe where I am, and I'm not going to be alone anywhere, so we'll be good.
I know. That's why I'm like, I want to tell about like the places I've stayed for Disneyland. I'm like, I'm not going to do that this time. I'll say after I went and how it was. I will 100% do a report, but I'm just like, I'm not going to do that. And so I finalized a trip for myself. I'm going to go to Disneyland the 14th through the 19th of November. So I'm going to head down to Disneyland, and I'm by myself. So I'll have a lot of time to live stream and write and create and do all those good things and see the Disneyland crew, which will be really fun. And then I have not booked yet because I'm kind of waiting to see if any deals come out for Disney World in January, because I know that this is about the time in this month is when they release all the deals for annual pass holders, and if they're going to do any more Disney Plus stuff, it's like coming. I know it's coming, so I'm like, I'll just wait and see what happens. So
wait it out.
Hopefully it will be. Yeah, I'm hoping to be back in Disney World in January. staying at one of these value resorts. but I'm just there to sleep and shower, so who cares?
Yeah.
You know, it's
Right,
great.
exactly. Well, and it's fun when we get to go to the parks. Then you guys get all these bonus, lovely special guests that come on our show. So we'll have to be planning out some other special guests. And again, as always, if you are interested in being on the show, you want to be on the show, send us a message, contact us, let us know. We've got a list of some people to contact, but you know, we are always going to be looking for more people to add to our Mom Street family. Unfortunately, at this point, we are using TikTok, so that 1,000 follower thing is something that we're working with. And, you know, if we end up needing to move to Instagram or something like that, we can figure out how to make that work. But that is all coming up. So next week is Kate and Sarah. And then the following week, we will jump back into resorts with the moderate resorts, and then Deluxe and DVC, and then it'll be time for Christmas stuff, which is crazy to think about.
It's coming so fast.
I'm
not ready.
Let's get through Halloween first. Through Halloween first.
One holiday at a time. I feel like as a mom, it's like, let's just do one at a time.
Exactly.
Oh,
Well, and as always, if you guys are looking for ways to contact us or looking for our merch or any of our replayed shows or podcasts, all of that is up in my bio and over in Kate's bio as well. So feel free to look there. Most of you guys know where to contact us, but just in case you don't, you can message us on Discord, which is, again, link in bio. You can message us on Instagram, commenting on stuff. We have an email address, momstreetusa@gmail.com. Any of those are great ways that you guys can reach out to us, ask questions, give input. If you guys have suggestions for future shows, any of that stuff, we would love to hear it.
Yeah, we really love that this show is not just me and Jackie. It is all of us. It's all of us on Mom Street USA. So thank you for all of your input and your information and your questions. I think that really, sometimes when Jackie and I put these together, we're like, well, this is kind of what we talk about. But then you guys ask all these great questions and we're like, oh yeah, let's talk about that. Oh yep, let's add that in, because those are the questions that all people are asking, all moms and parents and things out there are asking. So thank you for interacting and being here and being the reason why we're here. So I love you guys.
And you guys are so supportive in so many ways, liking and following our social media and ordering merch and just being here. We're super appreciative of that. Okay, I've got this question twice. So they're asking about my little icons behind me. Sorry, before we head off. These are, so Funko Pop released these for the 50th anniversary. They are little
cute
stuffed park icons. There's Space Mountain.
Oh, Space Mountain.
So I know, he's so cute.
That looks so funny. Look
at his little tiny face down there. And then the castle.
Aww. I don't know if it looks like the castle. Is that the Disneyland castle?
I don't know. No, I don't think so, technically. Because they were for the 50th anniversary, so it's supposed to be World.
The yellow part's throwing me out. Off. I'm like, what is that?
So these are Funko Pop plushies, I guess, or I got these off of Amazon, but I know several different places had them. Now, I don't know. I will have to do some digging. Let me see if I can find them for you guys. If I can find them, I will put them, if they're on Amazon, I'll put them on my storefront. If not, I will link them on Discord. But yeah, they are Funko Pop characters. And we pre-ordered them like as soon as I saw them because they were adorable and I had to have them.
You got all of them. It's like, not one or two, just all.
Well, and my husband and I were talking, we're like, okay, like these three were the ones that we really wanted because like my family, we love Animal Kingdom. Like that's one of our favorites. And like these ones are just like, how do you not want to buy that? How?
So cute.
How? And so then it was like at that point we were buying 3 of the 5. And so my husband just looked at me and was like, you might as well just order the other 2. I was like, thank you. I appreciate you fueling my obsession. It's fine. So yeah, they just hang out with me. They were upstairs in my room, and then I was like, these need to live somewhere where they will be appreciated. So they moved down to my couch in the basement, which is where I sit when we do our show.
Because I got a closet.
I know. It's got the great little like Mickey backdrop, and it's like
so
perfectly placed. So I don't remember how much they were. I bought
Karen says
them.
Jackie is my spirit animal right now.
Oh my gosh. I got them. Oh gosh. We probably got them a little less than a year ago. Um, I think
Probably
they
still around.
announced them like right at the 50th, which was a year ago. I want to say they were like 14 or 15 a piece, if I'm remembering correctly. But I will see if I can help you guys find them. Because, and they're just such a great size. They're so adorable. They bring me
They're
so
so
much joy.
cute. That's great. I love
Yes,
them.
yes.
They're so
Yes.
cute.
Sorry for the side tangent, but I got that question twice tonight and I wanted to make sure that I answered it. I think when I had to run upstairs and yell at my dogs, several people saw that they were on the
Oh yeah.
on the couch where I was not sitting in the way. So,
Oh gosh. Well, I think that's all I have for this evening. I will just mention also a little plug for Distory tomorrow night with Kirk. Distory with Kate and Kirk is technically the title. We'll be doing that tomorrow night at 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern, and we'll be talking more about the Tiki Room, specifically the Walt Disney World versions of the Tiki Room. So we'll continue doing that. You can get your sticker and your shirts before the price goes up and all the things at disneycicerone.com. We love you guys, and this is one of my favorite parts of the week, especially talking to all of you, talking to Jackie. I love this, just hanging out. So thank you for being here and being part of Mom Street USA. And we will see you next week with our special guest, Sarah, Three Mouseketeers. And Jackie, have a wonderful time at Disney World.
thank you.
Bring us back all the happy memories and stories because we want to hear them all.
I will do my best.
I think that's it. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for your order, Kristen. I appreciate you. Sorry, I wanted to make sure I said that. Thanks, friends. I will catch you later. Bye.